They said I should have done something. Called 911 faster, started CPR, held his hand, something. But I didn't. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching. My boss, Gerald Hayes, collapsed at his desk during a meeting. 53 years old, possible heart attack. And I was 10 feet away when it happened. Everyone thinks I froze, that I was in shock. But I wasn't frozen. I was choosing. If you've ever watched someone who hurt you suffer, if you've ever had to decide whether they deserve your help, you'll understand this story. If it resonates with you, let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe. Because this one taught me something I'll never forget. But the real fire? That started 2 years ago, the day my husband died. My name is Marilyn Hayes. Yes, same last name as Gerald. We're not related. It's just one of those cruel coincidences that made working under him even more confusing. I worked at Hayes Logistics for 8 years, started as an admin assistant right out of college, worked my way up to senior operations manager. Gerald was my direct supervisor the entire time. In the beginning, I thought he was a good boss. He promoted me faster than anyone else in the company, gave me more responsibility, more trust, more access, called me the backbone of operations in front of clients. I thought it was respect. It wasn't. It was convenience. I made him look good. I caught his mistakes. I smoothed over his rough edges with clients. I worked late when he wanted to leave early. But I didn't know that yet. Not until 2 years ago. Back then, I was happy. I had a husband I adored, a job I was good at. Michael and I had been married for 12 years. He was an accountant, careful, organized, the kind of man who labeled the spice rack alphabetically. It drove me crazy sometimes, but I loved him for it. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And then it wasn't. October 15th, a Tuesday. I remember because it was the day I was supposed to present our Q4 logistics proposal to the Henderson Group. $2 million account. Gerald had been preparing for it for weeks. I was at home that morning getting ready. Black blazer, heels, the presentation printed and in my bag. Michael was in the kitchen making coffee. I could hear him humming. He always hummed when he made coffee, some old jazz tune his dad used to play. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the mug hit the floor, then the sound of him falling. I ran, toothbrush still in my mouth. Michael was on the kitchen floor, on his back. His face was gray. His hand was clutching his chest. His eyes were wide, terrified. "Michael!" I dropped to my knees beside him. "Michael, talk to me!" He couldn't. He was trying. His mouth was moving. But no words came out. Just this awful gasping sound. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped it. The dispatcher's voice was calm, clinical. "What's your emergency?" "My husband collapsed. He's not breathing right. His chest." "Is he conscious?" "Yes, barely." "Check his pulse." I put my fingers on his neck. His pulse was there, but wrong, too fast, irregular, like his heart was stuttering. "It's fast," I said. "Really fast." "Okay, I need you to stay calm. Help is on the way." "Is he able to speak?" "No. I'm going to walk you through what to do until the ambulance arrives." The next 7 minutes were the longest of my life. I did what the dispatcher said. Loosened Michael's collar, elevated his legs slightly, talked to him, told him to stay with me, told him help was coming. He kept looking at me. His eyes never left my face. I didn't know then that he was memorizing me. When the ambulance arrived, I stepped back, let the paramedics work. They moved fast, checked his vitals, hooked him up to machines, asked questions I barely heard. One of them looked at me. "Ma'am, this looks like heart failure. We're taking him to Mercy General. You can ride with us." I nodded, grabbed my purse, left everything else. In the ambulance, I held Michael's hand. The paramedic kept checking monitors, adjusting things. "Is he going to be okay?" I asked. The paramedic didn't look at me. "We're doing everything we can." That's not an answer. That's what people say when they don't want to tell you the truth. At the hospital, they rushed Michael into emergency surgery. The doctor used words like critical and unstable and we'll do our best. I sat in the waiting room, alone, numb. My phone buzzed. Gerald. I stared at the screen. The Henderson presentation. The meeting. It was starting in 20 minutes. I answered. Gerald, where are you? His voice was sharp, annoyed. The clients are in the conference room. We start in 15 minutes. I'm at the hospital. Michael collapsed. Heart failure. They're operating on him right now. Silence. Then, how long will you be? I blinked. What? How long will you be at the hospital? Can you make it back for the afternoon session? Gerald, they don't know if he's going to make it. I understand that. His voice was calm, measured, like he was discussing a shipping delay. But we have a meeting, a very important meeting. The Henderson account is worth $2 million, Marilyn. I need you here. My husband is dying, and I'm sorry about that. I really am. He didn't sound sorry. But you have a responsibility to this company, to me, to the team. We've been preparing for this for weeks. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I can't leave him. Then don't come back. The words hung there, cold, final. What? If you're not at this meeting, Gerald said slowly, don't bother coming back to the office. We'll consider it voluntary termination. My throat felt tight. You're firing me because my husband is dying? I'm giving you a choice. Work comes first, Marilyn. It always has. You know that. The line went dead. I sat there, phone in my hand, staring at the screen. Work comes first. That was Gerald's motto, his philosophy. The thing he said whenever someone complained about overtime or asked for time off. Work comes first. I made my choice. I turned off my phone, and I stayed. For 7 days, I lived in that hospital. Michael made it through surgery, barely. They put him in ICU, hooked him up to machines that breathed for him, that kept his heart beating, that monitored every flutter, every pause. The doctor said the next 48 hours were critical. I didn't leave his side. I slept in the chair next to his bed, ate whatever the nurses brought me, watched the monitors, counted his heartbeats. Friends came by. Michael's sister, my mom. They brought food I didn't eat, said things I didn't hear. All I could do was watch Michael and wait. On the 3rd day, his eyes opened, just for a second. He looked at me, really looked at me, and then they closed again. I talked to him about everything, about nothing, about the life we were going to have when he woke up. I talked until my voice was hoarse. On the 5th day, the machines started beeping. Alarms, loud, urgent. Nurses rushed in, then doctors. They pushed me out into the hallway. I stood there, watching through the window, watching them try to save him. 10 minutes later, a doctor came out. She didn't have to say anything. I could see it in her face. I'm sorry, she said. We did everything we could. Michael was gone. The funeral was 3 days later. I sat in the front row, listened to people talk about what a good man Michael was, how kind he was, how generous, how he never missed a deadline. That last one made me want to scream. Michael never missed a deadline. But his boss let him take time off when his father died. Let him leave early when his sister was in the hospital. Let him be human. Gerald didn't. After the service, I went home. The house was too quiet, too empty. I went to Michael's office. Everything was exactly as he'd left it, organized, labeled, perfect. There was a folder on his desk, red, with a label that said "For Emergencies" in his neat handwriting. Inside were bank statements, investment accounts, insurance policies, passwords, instructions, and a handwritten note on top. Trust facts, not feelings. M. That was Michael. Always logical, always prepared, even for this. I set the folder aside, curled up in his chair, and cried until there was nothing left. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Text from Gerald. Sorry for your loss. See you Monday. Not a call, not flowers, not a card, not even a genuine condolence. Just, see you Monday. Like Michael's death was an inconvenience. Like I'd taken a long weekend instead of burying my husband. I stared at that text for a long time. Then I got dressed, drove to the office. Maybe I wanted to prove something. Maybe I just needed somewhere to go. Maybe I didn't know what else to do. When I got to the building, my badge didn't work. I scanned it. Red light. The door stayed locked. I tried again. Red light. A security guard I'd known for 6 years came over. Wouldn't look me in the eye. Ma'am, you need to go to HR. Why doesn't my badge work, Tom? HR will explain. My stomach dropped. Tom, I'm sorry, Marilyn, I really am, but I can't let you in. I went to HR. A woman I'd never seen before sat behind a desk. Young, uncomfortable, clearly new. She handed me an envelope without meeting my eyes. What's this? I asked. Please, just read it. Inside was a letter, pre-written, pre-printed. Notice of termination. Voluntary resignation. Voluntary termination due to job abandonment. Employee failed to report to work for 7 consecutive days without approved leave. I read it twice. Voluntary. I didn't quit. According to company policy, 7 days of no-call, no-show is considered voluntary termination. I called Gerald. The day my husband collapsed, I told him what happened. There's no record of that call in the system. Of course there wasn't. He told me not to come back, I said. He said, don't come back. I don't have any record of that, ma'am. I looked at the signature line. My name. My signature. Except, I'd never signed this. I didn't sign this. All termination paperwork is processed digitally now. Your signature was on file from previous documents. They'd forged it, lifted my signature from another form, made it look like I'd agreed to quit. This is fraud, I said. The HR woman's face stayed neutral, professional. You're welcome to consult with an attorney if you have concerns, but as of today, your employment is terminated. No severance, no benefits. Your final paycheck will be mailed within 2 weeks. She stood. I need you to leave the building now. Tom was waiting outside the HR office. He escorted me to the door. I'm really sorry, Marilyn, he said quietly. Yeah, me too. I drove home, went inside, sat on the couch, and for the first time since Michael died, I felt something other than grief. I felt rage. For the first week, I just sat in Michael's chair, staring at nothing. But then I remembered Michael's note. Trust facts, not feelings. So I started looking at facts. I still had my work laptop at home, company property. They'd forgotten about it. And I'd been backing up files to my personal drive for years. Michael had taught me that. Always keep your own copies. I opened the laptop, started going through files, financial reports, invoices, vendor contracts. At first I was just looking, no plan, just looking for something that would explain why Gerald would do this to me. And then I found it. An invoice from a consulting company I'd never heard of, Turner & Associates. $15,000 for operational consulting services. I'd never approved this, never met anyone from Turner & Associates. I searched for more, found 12 invoices over 2 years, $180,000 total. I looked up the company. No website, no LinkedIn, no registration. Turner & Associates didn't exist. My hands were shaking, not from grief, from something else. I kept digging, More fake companies, more phantom invoices, hidden in operational expenses. Gerald had been stealing from the company for years, and suddenly everything made sense. He didn't fire me because I missed a meeting. He fired me because I had access, because I asked questions, because I was dangerous. I spent the next 2 weeks in Michael's office, building the case. Every fake invoice, every phantom company, every fraudulent payment. I cross-referenced bank records, followed the money. It all led back to Gerald. At first, I felt satisfaction. Cold, pure. But then I'd look at Michael's note. Trust facts, not feelings. And I'd wonder what he would think of me hunting revenge instead of grieving. But then I'd remember Gerald's voice. Work comes first. And I'd remember Michael dying alone while Gerald gave my presentation. And I'd keep digging. When I had enough, I sent half the evidence to Victoria Chen, the CEO, anonymously. Just enough to make her look. 3 days later, Amy messaged me, an old coworker. Did you hear? They're auditing Gerald. Something about financial discrepancies. I smiled. Really? That's interesting. He's freaking out, Amy wrote. Keeps saying someone's trying to frame him. But I wasn't done. I watched Gerald's digital footprint. His LinkedIn posts about weathering false accusations. I checked the company VPN logs. Saw him logging in at 2 a.m., 4 a.m., deleting files. Every move confirmed his guilt. 2 weeks later, I sent the rest to the FBI, Financial Crimes Division. Everything, the fake companies, the shell accounts, the money trail, and my termination letter, with my forged signature. Document fraud. Federal labor law violations. It wasn't just embezzlement anymore. It was federal. A month later, Victoria Chen called. Ms. Hayes? I'd like to meet with you, tomorrow, if possible. What's this about? I think you know. I went to the office the next day. The receptionist's eyes went wide, started to say something, stopped. I gave her my name, told her I had an appointment with Victoria. She's expecting you, top floor. Victoria was standing by the window when I arrived. Marilyn Hayes, she said. Please, sit. I sat. She turned to face me. You sent the files? Yes. Why? Because Gerald Hayes is a thief, and someone needed to stop him. She sat down. He says you're trying to frame him. I didn't forge those invoices. Gerald did that himself. The FBI agrees with you. I nodded. They're arresting him today, Victoria said, this afternoon at 3 p.m. I looked at the clock. 2:30. I'd like to be here, I said, when it happens. Victoria studied me. Why? Because I want him to see me. I want him to know it was me. She was quiet, then nodded. The FBI wants a statement from you about your termination. Yes. Marilyn, Victoria said, I'm sorry for what happened, for not looking closer. We failed you. I nodded. Yes, you did. The board is reviewing your case. We'll be making this right. I want him to pay for what he did. He will, Victoria said. I promise. At 2:50, the phone rang. Victoria answered, listened, hung up. They're here, she said. 2 FBI agents in dark suits met us downstairs. We went to conference room B. Gerald was in a meeting with clients. One agent opened the door. Gerald Hayes? Gerald looked up, annoyed, then confused. Yes? FBI, you're under arrest for corporate embezzlement, wire fraud, and document forgery. Gerald's face went white. What? This is ridiculous. You have the right to remain silent. That's when Gerald saw me, standing in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. His eyes went wide. You did this. I didn't say anything, just looked at him. The agents cuffed him, led him toward the door. As he passed me, he leaned in. You'll regret this. I leaned closer, just enough for him to hear. I already did. Once, when I chose a meeting over my husband. His face went white. They led him away. That was 3 weeks ago. Today, Victoria called me back, said there was paperwork to sign, compensation, an NDA. I was in her office when we heard the commotion, shouting, someone yelling for help. Victoria and I went into the hallway. A crowd had gathered. People were panicking. Someone was on the phone. I pushed through. Gerald was on the floor, face pale, clutching his chest, gasping. Heart attack. Someone saw me. Marilyn, thank God. You know CPR, right? I did. I'd learned it after Michael died. Too late for him, but I'd learned it anyway. Call 911, I said. They're coming, but you can help him now. I looked at Gerald, at the man who'd told me work comes first, who'd made me choose between a meeting and my dying husband, who'd fired me while I buried Michael. No, I said, I can't. What do you mean you can't? I mean I won't. The crowd went silent, staring at me. Are you serious? Someone said. He's dying. The paramedics are coming, I said calmly. They'll handle it. I stepped back, arms crossed, and watched. 4 minutes later, sirens. Paramedics rushed in. They worked fast, got him stabilized, loaded him onto a stretcher. As they wheeled him past me, Gerald's eyes met mine. He was conscious, barely. He saw me standing there, doing nothing, and I wanted him to see it. I wanted him to remember this moment, the same way I'd remember watching Michael die alone because Gerald said work comes first. After they loaded Gerald into the ambulance, Victoria found me. He's going to be okay, she said. They got to him in time. Good. She looked at me. You didn't help him. No. Why not? I took a breath. 2 years ago, my husband was dying. Gerald told me work comes first, so I made a choice. I chose my husband. I chose to be there when it mattered. I paused. Today, Gerald was dying at work, and I made another choice. I let the professionals do their job, just like he should have let me do 2 years ago. Victoria nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? I asked, because I keep asking myself if I did the right thing. Did you call 911? Someone did. Did you stand in the paramedics' way? No. Then you did what you needed to do, Victoria said. Maybe she was right. Or maybe I was just as cold as Gerald. I don't know anymore. An hour later, I was sitting in my car in the parking lot, phone in my hand, staring at nothing. A text from Amy. Gerald's stable. They're keeping him overnight. I didn't reply. Another text. FBI arrested him at the hospital. They were waiting. I closed my eyes. Michael's voice echoed in my head. Trust facts, not feelings. The facts were simple. Gerald stole from the company. He forged my signature. He fired me while my husband was dying. And today, when he needed help, I chose facts over feelings. I let him have exactly what he'd asked for. Work. His company. His choice. I started the car. Drove home. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just peace. The kind you earn by making hard choices. By trusting facts over feelings. By choosing what's right over what's easy. Gerald survived, but he lost everything else. And me? I walked away with something he'll never understand. The knowledge that I showed up when it mattered, that I was there for Michael, that I chose love over work, even if it cost me everything. Even if it made me cold. I chose right.
That was Marilyn Hayes. I'm Dean Mitchell, Station 47. We respond to a lot of medical emergencies, heart attacks, strokes, accidents, and most of the time, bystanders panic. They freeze. They don't know what to do. But every once in a while, we arrive and find someone who's completely calm, someone who's choosing not to help. And you know what? Sometimes I understand why. Marilyn's husband, Michael, collapsed at home 2 years ago. Heart failure, critical. And her boss, Gerald, told her that work comes first, that a client meeting was more important than saying goodbye to the man she loved. Gerald taught Marilyn that people are replaceable, that loyalty is a transaction, that when it matters most, the company always wins. So when Gerald collapsed at work, surrounded by the job he put above everything else, Marilyn let him have exactly what he'd valued most: his work, his company, his choice. She didn't owe him comfort. She didn't owe him CPR. She didn't owe him anything. Because 2 years ago, when she needed him to be human, he chose to be a manager instead. I've been doing this job for 18 years, and I've learned something important. Work never shows up at your funeral. Work doesn't hold your hand when you're scared. Work doesn't cry when you're gone. Work doesn't remember your name 5 years later. But the people who love you, they remember everything. They remember whether you showed up, whether you chose them, whether you were there when it mattered. If your job ever makes you choose between work and the people you love, choose love. Every single time. Work will replace you in a week. But the people who love you will remember forever, whether you showed up. Gerald survived his heart attack, but he lost everything else: his job, his freedom, his reputation. Marilyn walked away with something he'll never understand: peace, the kind you earn by trusting facts over feelings, by choosing what's right over what's easy. If Marilyn's story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if you want more stories from Station 47, hit that subscribe button. Stay safe out there.